So growing up, in a place like New York City where diversity, it's just a
It's
term.
always been
It's
celebrated.
always been celebrated. Culture is what we do. We expect to meet people from around the world in New York City. Now, I transitioned to North Carolina.
A little different.
Very different. Very, very different. Right? And you see like, okay, this is a different environment.
My name is Alex Lopez with Corrigan Clark Architects and Issues in Education. And right here we have Miss Khem Irby. Did I get that right?
That's correct.
All right. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with us. Understand you're like in Miami in Cube,
Oh yeah.
learning a lot.
My second time in Cube.
You're kidding.
In Miami.
And you are part of the Cube leadership. Is that
Cube
correct?
steering committee.
Okay. What does
Yeah.
that mean to you? What do you guys do?
We get to be the decision makers about what's going to happen at Cube.
Okay.
Right. And we also did presentations. We did the panel, and we did a presentation from my district coming out of COVID strategies that we implemented.
Okay. So you get to run the shots. You get to
A
call the
little
shots
bit,
around
but
here,
behind
huh?
the scenes.
That's
behind the
awesome.
scenes.
What the buzzwords, DEI, diversity, inclusion, all of this, racial equity and community engagement, right? Unwrap that a little bit for me.
Right.
What is diversity and community engagement?
You
How do
know,
you see those coming together?
I think that they're terminologies that we're applying to something that we were always had, right? I'm from Brooklyn, I'm from New York City. So you grow up with diversity, but you don't think about it. You live in your
That's your
community,
environment.
right? You live in your community. You can go hang out in Chinatown. You can go to Little Italy. You can go to Coney Island. I'm like, and you're gonna see.
The cannolis and Little
Oh
Italy.
my goodness. You
Dear
can go
Lord.
to the village,
Yeah,
right?
uh-huh.
We've always had a
Love
pride
it, love it.
parade. So growing up, in a place like New York City where diversity, it's just a
It's
term.
always been
It's
celebrated.
always been celebrated. Culture is what we do. We expect to meet people from around the world in New York City. Now, I transitioned to North Carolina.
A little different.
Very different. Very, very different. Right? And you see like, okay, this is a different environment. Okay. I got 6 kids here. I'm bringing them out of New York City with a lot of resources, a lot of access, right? No barriers in regard to accessing education. Transportation is definitely not an issue because you can walk around the corner. We got sidewalks that make a
Yep.
difference.
Uh-huh.
To a new community with no sidewalks, trees, and a yellow bus.
Yes, very different.
Very different.
Okay. We were talking about adjustment and being
Right.
stretched.
The stretching is that you have to decide this is where I am, and I have to really become a lifelong learner.
There we go.
That's what happened.
How do you engage your parents?
Yeah, I'm a parent, so I kind of feel like
You're wearing two hats.
I'm wearing a couple, right? Those hats of being a parent, now a grandparent. So knowing what people go through, understanding where they are, what their needs are, knowing how to speak parent, right? Being in the education field, you know how they use their acronyms and they use all the educational terms. As a parent advocate, you have to translate that back to your community, right? And be able to break it down and say, oh no, this is what that means. This is what they're talking about, right? So that's important to have that interpreter.
You have to hold their hand and explain the process to them.
Processes sometimes, how to navigate through systems, and also giving them the tools through language. When the school says this, you say that. When they say no, then now you go through this door. Ask them about this, ask them about that. And getting parents to think more strategically.
Giving them a roadmap.
Yes.
Okay.
About their child's education.
That makes a big difference.
That does matter.
And so, I mean, it takes a village, right?
A whole village.
A whole village. And when you have that roadmap and it's available to everybody, life is easier to navigate. Access.
Equity.
Yes. Imagine that. Hey, we finally got to it, huh?
Yeah.
It took a minute.
It took a minute. And it will continue to take a minute, right?
Oh, yeah.
The pandemic, just made us look at education differently, realize more than ever that we weren't getting some things right. So guess what? Let's just dismantle the whole thing and start new.
Well, it reminds me, I commented on your glasses and how beautiful they are. You were looking at it with different lenses, huh?
Right.
Gosh. Well, Miss Irby, it was great
Thank
to
you.
chat with you. Thank you so much for spending your time with
Thank you
with
for the
us. So,
opportunity.
and I hope you enjoy the rest of Miami.